Hi folks. One of my subscribers, GeniusBoy1380, has asked me to make a video on the subject of morality, specifically in relation to moral relativism as he understands it. Now the way Christians, and he's a Christian I believe, the way the Christian understands moral relativism tends to be like this. If you take God out of the equation, then you have no standard with which to judge good from evil. Therefore, you cannot say that anything is evil. So, I might decide it's wrong to rape someone, wrong to murder someone in cold blood. But if someone else decides it's okay to rape someone, it's okay to commit murder, how can I say that I'm right and that person's wrong? So, this is the argument that the Christian uses to point out that moral relativism is ludicrous. But I don't think it is. And I'll explain in a moment. Now, the thing that you have to understand about my perspective on this is that I am approaching the question of morality from a very, very different perspective than a Christian. A Christian believes that mankind is fallen, that mankind is evil, if you will. We have a sinful nature that God needs to fix. I don't resonate with that whatsoever. I believe that man is no different than the rest of the animal kingdom. So in determining how I should behave, how I should determine right from wrong, my first sort of clue as to how to do that rationally is to look at the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom is determined largely by instinct. Take a look at things like, pack dogs, like huskies. They form a pecking order. They have behaviour patterns that serve their species. And what are the two most prominent drives that animals have? It's their own survival and the survival of their species through propagating their own kind. Now, if we look at human beings and we look at our own instincts, I think we have to agree that we feel those same instincts very keenly. Our sexuality is a very powerful drive within us, as is our will to live. So, we are animals, and that is what dictates our behaviour. Now, we have a very complex, highly developed brain that allows us to manage our instincts in a much more detailed way. And that is what gives rise to civilization. It's kind of like this. Let me use the example of something like eBay, just to use a really modern example. I know that I could set up an eBay account and I could go on and I could defraud people of money. I could be a thief, right? What stops me doing that? It's not because God says it's wrong to steal. It's because I recognize that stealing is not going to serve what I want to get out of this. And what I want to get out of this is the continual use of a system that works. So I want to be able to buy and sell for the foreseeable future. That is what I want to get out of that. And I have enough faith in the human race to realize that most other people are thinking about this in the same way. And that is why something like eBay works. I can be pretty sure 99.9 times, well maybe 99.5 times out of 100 that when I do an eBay transaction it's going to work out. And it has. There are very few people on eBay who are thieves. Now it does happen, of course. It happens because people decide to do other things. They decide to be completely selfish, completely isolated from society and say to themselves, well, I'm just going to take what's yours and to hell with you. Now, who am I to say that they're wrong to do that? But you have to understand it's not just me saying that. It's me and everybody who agrees with me. So, what decides right from wrong? You may have heard these words used before depending on what you've read. Lex talionis, the law of the claw, or law of the talon. that is the principle that nature works by, and we are a part of nature. Basically, whatever wins is what's right. So, civilization is here, and civilization works because we all want it. Nobody wants to go back to, dog-eat-dog barbarism. And that is why we behave ourselves. Now, it's all in flux, of course. We haven't arrived at any kind of ethical end point of some kind of perfect morality that's never going to change. But it's entirely pragmatic. My morality is entirely pragmatic. The reason why I think this makes sense to me and it doesn't make sense to a Christian is that I'm not coming at it from this dark perspective that there's something wrong with the human race. Yes, there is a certain amount of conflict and fighting, and that's because nature is adversarial. It's adversarial in the animal kingdom, and it's adversarial among humans too. So, basically what happens is, to break it right down, you fight it out, and whatever wins is what determines what we do. So basically, we're in a situation right now where we can say civilization wins over barbarism. And we all want to keep it that way, so we behave ourselves. And we all want there to be a police force to deal with the people who won't comply to these things. So everything is as it's supposed to be. So the question, for a Christian to say to me, oh, you've no absolute standard of right and wrong, why don't you go out and steal and kill and rape to your heart's content? Well, doing that doesn't make any sense to me, so why would I do it? Because I'm not a fallen creature. I mean, the world 100 years from today, in the future, it's not going to be the same ethically as it is today. Just like today isn't the same ethically as it was 100 years ago. Everything moves, everything changes. That's the essence of the way life works. It's the essence of biological evolution, and it's no different, I think, with moral evolution. Everything changes. There's nothing perfect about the way we are today. It just works as best as we've been able to make it work for ourselves as a species. And the things that don't work, we get rid of. That's why we have prisons where undesirable people are locked up. And do I have the right to say they should be locked up? Yes, I do. Because me and everybody who thinks like me, we won the battle against such people. Lex talionis. I mean, Christians have to simply accept the fact that atheists are able to live perfectly normal, moral, productive lives without any reference to the Bible. Now, you might want to accuse them of living a contradiction, but you need to ask them, why do you continue to be moral when you don't need to be? But we do need to be. And even though I'm not an atheist specifically, we do need to be, because we want life to continue the way it is continuing. That's why we do it. We want to be on the winning team. We're pragmatic. We want life to work for ourselves, for the people we care about, for our children. Because everything is moving forward. And you can either ride that current, or you can go against it by murdering someone, by raping someone, by molesting a child. And the people like me who disagree with these things, we will happily lock you away. Now, just in closing, I want to swing this about and point the finger somewhat at Christianity. Not at Christianity specifically, but at all religion really. I know you believe that you're on terra firma completely with this idea that God has defined right and wrong for you, therefore it's absolutely solid, it's airtight, you don't need anything else, you know exactly how to behave. But that's really not the case. Because when you really examine Christianity in the present, and you compare it to, say, medieval Christianity, ethically speaking, are both of those the same? No, they're not. I know that you can look at the Bible and you can point to these absolute standards. But when these standards are applied to different cultures, practically speaking, in terms of real life, you end up in a completely different place. Because back then, they were burning witches, they were drowning them, and those things just wouldn't fly today, and you know that. Even compare Christianity today to Christianity, say, in the earlier part of the 20th century. Back then, things like dancing and cinema going were disapproved of, whereas the modern Christian today doesn't see any problem with these things. So there you go, in the practicalities of everyday life, morals have changed, despite the fact that you have the same Bible today that you had a couple of thousand years ago. So unfortunately, this means that Christian morals are relative. They're relative in a slightly different way than mine are, but they're still relative. So what do you do with that? What good is a standard written down on paper if it cannot be applied objectively to all eras and cultures and arrive at the same moral judgments? And history shows that it cannot. If you believe in objective morality, my challenge to you is to answer this question. Where is it? Where is it to be found? And don't tell me it's found in the Bible, because I'm asking, where is it found in the world? Do you think that Christianity today represents the objective moral standards of your God? Because you know that medieval Christianity didn't represent it. You know that Christianity in the early part of the 20th century didn't represent it. So what's Christianity going to be like 100 years from now? 200 years from now? Who can tell? It's all relative, isn't it? Think about it.